You guys, you will not believe what's going down in London right now. Seriously, if you thought Prince Harry's life couldn't get any more bonkers, buckle up, because this Daily Mail lawsuit, it's a full-blown train wreck, and honestly, it's all Harry's doing. We're talking about a man who just got publicly humiliated in court, not by the opposing counsel, but essentially by his own words, his own book, and his own bizarre behavior. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash. You know what I mean? So, day 2 of Harry versus the Daily Mail. Harry's in the witness box, sworn in, and he's being cross-examined by Anthony White Casey, who, let me tell you, knows his onions. This guy isn't playing around. And what does White Casey do? He drops a nuclear bomb right there in the London High Court. He starts reading testimony, intimate details, private conversations, all about Harry's relationship with his ex-girlfriend, Chelsy Davy. Their romantic trip to Botswana, plans they made, where Harry preferred to spend the night. Harry's sitting there, and his face, they say, just goes pale. You've got to imagine the shock. Here's the thing, though, and this is where it gets really juicy. Chelsy Davy represents everything Meghan Markle isn't, and that's why this is such a devastating blow. Chelsy came from money, she didn't need Harry's fame, she actively avoided cameras, never leaked stories, lived with dignity, and just moved on with her life. She's happily married now, with children, living a quiet life in Africa, the exact quiet life Harry claimed he wanted. And suddenly, Chelsy, the true love of his life, is front and center in this explosive case. You can just picture Meghan back in California, absolutely seething, watching Harry reminisce about his ex under oath. Every article, every headline, it's all about Chelsy's grace, her discretion, her lack of hunger for fame, everything that's a direct contrast to Meghan. And honestly, you can't make this stuff up. And the hypocrisy of it all is just staggering, isn't it? Harry's arguing the Daily Mail invaded his privacy by reporting on his relationship with Chelsy 2 decades ago. But did he ask Chelsy if she wanted her private life dragged through international courts 20 years later? Her husband reportedly told Harry to stop talking about her, and Harry just ignored him. Now Chelsy's name is plastered everywhere again. Meanwhile, Harry wrote Spare, right? That $20 million book where he detailed William's private parts, revealed private conversations with his dying grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, exposed Kate's personal messages. But somehow, the Daily Mail reporting on his public relationship with Chelsy from way back when is the crime of the century. Come on. Seriously though, the double standard is just infuriating. Then there's the courtroom etiquette, or lack thereof. Justice Matthew Nicolin, the judge, actually had to stop the proceedings and publicly rebuke Harry. He looked directly at him and said, "You are doing exactly what lots of litigants do, arguing back to the barrister about the evidence being put to you when your role is simply to answer the questions." Can you believe that? A judge telling a prince in front of the world's media that he's behaving like every other entitled defendant who thinks they're smarter than the lawyers. Harry just couldn't help himself. He kept trying to argue, explain, justify. The judge had to intervene multiple times, each interruption just another layer of humiliation. It shows he has absolutely no idea how courts actually work, despite spending hundreds of millions on legal fees across multiple cases. And this brings me to Queen Elizabeth. Before she died, she saw this coming, didn't she? She warned him. She pulled him aside and told him, "What's in print stays in print. Never put pen to paper, Harry." She knew his impulsiveness, his inability to think long term, his need for revenge. She understood that once you publish something, it becomes permanent evidence against you. Harry ignored her completely. Published Spare anyway, went on a global tour, bragging about how accurate every word was, how he had fact checkers, how it was his definitive truth. And now that very book is being read aloud in court, proving he lied under oath. Her exact words, "What's in print stays in print," are echoing through the proceedings, a prophecy fulfilling itself in the most devastating way possible. He thought he knew better than a woman who navigated 70 years as queen. This whole thing is just a complete mess, and it's only getting worse. But here's something even more enraging about Harry's hypocrisy, something that makes his entire case collapse under scrutiny. While Harry's out there, under oath, claiming the royal family prevented him from suing the media, his brother William was quietly winning multiple lawsuits. Successfully, repeatedly. He sued Paris Match magazine, Closer magazine, both for privacy violations, won both cases, maintained dignity throughout, no drama, no public tantrums, just professional, effective, Victorious. And here's the detail that should humiliate Harry to his core. William donated his entire lawsuit winnings to the Invictus Games, Harry's own charity. His brother won legal battles and gave Harry the money. Let that sink in for a second. William proved you absolutely could sue the media as a working royal. He created the perfect blueprint, professional, quiet, successful, then donated the proceeds to his brother's organization. So when Harry testifies under oath that the family prevented him from taking action, he's provably lying. William demonstrated it was possible multiple times. The family's never complain policy, that was just a motto, not a rule. Harry even admitted this during his Spare publicity tour, telling an interviewer the policy had no real substance. Wait, which version is true, Harry? Because you can't claim both. Either the policy prevented you from suing, or it was meaningless. Pick one. You're under oath, buddy. The difference between the brothers is crystal clear. William sued for principle and gave away the money. Harry is suing for revenge and desperately needs the cash. William sought justice. Harry seeks paychecks and attention. William handled intrusion with class. Harry is having a public meltdown while his own words destroy him. And speaking of money, let's examine the real reason Harry's pursuing this case. Spare earned Harry a $20 million advance. Netflix deal, $100 million. Spotify, $20 million, before the catastrophic flameout. Conservatively, Harry earned over $150 million in 4 years. $150 million since 2020. Now watch it vanish. The single lawsuit, £40 million in legal fees. Montecito Mansion, $14 million. Private security, $3 million annually. But even with those expenses, the math doesn't work. Where did $150 million go in 4 years? Here's what's suspicious. Despite this windfall, Harry and Meghan constantly use other people's homes, other people's private jets, other people's vacation properties. They show up to events, but never host, except invitations without reciprocating. Industry insiders describe them as perpetual house guests who never pick up the check. Spotify executives used one devastating word, grifters. People who take money, don't deliver the product, and walk away. That word spreads in Hollywood faster than wildfire. You know what I mean? It's a reputation killer. Every future deal becomes harder. Every contract smaller. Every negotiation more skeptical. Netflix is reportedly questioning renewal. The documentary underperformed. The Spare adaptation stalled. Every project generates controversy without delivering viewers. Entertainment executives are quietly asking, is the Sussex brand worth the trouble? But here's the real financial catastrophe Harry's facing. If he loses this case, he could be personally liable for that entire £40 million legal bill. The judge made this explicitly clear, warned the claimants directly about their exposure. For someone who's already burned through $150 million in 4 years, this could mean complete financial devastation, forced sale of the mansion, potential bankruptcy, career destruction. And his legal team knows it's coming. That's why they're running. Multiple senior attorneys have withdrawn from Harry's case. Not one lawyer quitting for personal reasons. Multiple experienced legal professionals walking away from a high-profile prince and massive ongoing fees. That almost never happens unless they see catastrophic failure approaching and don't want their names attached to the wreckage. And what did they miss, you ask? Fundamental errors that would embarrass first-year law students. First, the statute of limitations. Many of Harry's claims expired years before he filed. They're legally time-barred. Some date back to 2001, 25 years ago. His team apparently never verified whether these cases could even be brought. That's potential malpractice, seriously. Second, they never cross-referenced Spare with his testimony. The most basic rule of litigation, know what your client has said publicly. Harry wrote a best-selling memoir describing intimate details of his life. Nobody thought to check if his courtroom testimony would contradict it. Third, they didn't prepare him for obvious defense strategy. Of course, the Daily Mail would weaponize his own book. Of course, they'd hunt for contradictions. How did an entire legal team at £40 million fail to anticipate this? Then there's the sheer irony of Harry's methods. He has no problem working with nefarious characters to get what he wants. He's working with convicted criminals, convicted phone hackers, to get dirt on other people. And he takes the high road, doesn't he? Preaching from his ivory tower about things that are morally corrupt. Harry's drug and alcohol abuse is documented by him in his own book. He bragged about it. Now, those years of impaired judgment might explain why he doesn't remember what he told whom. The paranoia he describes, that's a symptom of chronic drug use, not media surveillance. The legal team saw this disaster forming, they're collecting their fees and jumping ship before the verdict destroys their reputations. Because what's coming next isn't just embarrassing, it's potentially criminal. Perjury, lying under oath. It's not a civil penalty you pay with money, it's a crime you pay with jail time. When your published memoir directly contradicts your sworn testimony, you've crossed into dangerous territory. The legal standard is high. Prosecutors need proof you knowingly lied, not just misremembered. But Harry's contradictions aren't hazy recollections of distant events. They're published, fact-checked, publicized statements in a book he promoted as completely accurate, statements he spent months defending in interviews worldwide. Then he testified the opposite under oath. That's documentation. That's provable. Legal analysts are already debating whether prosecutors could bring charges. The evidence isn't conflicting witness testimony. It's Harry's own words versus his sworn statements, in writing, published globally. Undeniable. If Harry loses this case and the collapse is accelerating, the consequences are catastrophic. Personally liable for £40 million. Potential perjury investigation. Reputation destroyed. Credibility annihilated. Family reconciliation impossible. And there's a pattern here that makes us even darker. Prince Andrew followed this exact path. Arrogance, entitlement, thinking he was above consequences. Catastrophic lawsuit, public humiliation, family exile, permanent disgrace. Harry is tracing his uncle's footsteps with stunning precision. Both believed they were special. Both thought rules didn't apply. Both are discovering they're wrong in the most public way possible. The royal family has maintained absolute silence. King Charles hasn't reached out. William hasn't called. They watched Andrew's disaster unfold. They recognize the pattern repeating, and they're not getting dragged into this one. Sources say Harry checked his phone constantly during his London visit, desperate for any contact, any acknowledgement. Nothing came. The silence is their answer. He burned those bridges himself with spare. They're not being rebuilt. Chelsy Davy managed to escape Harry before the destruction. She saw something nobody else did. Now she's living proof of the life Harry could have had. Quiet, dignified, successful, happy. Instead, he's standing in court looking haggard, balding, defeated, a shell of the man he was 5 years ago. The transformation is shocking. This isn't normal aging. This is what happens when you systematically destroy everything good in your life for revenge. £40 million burned. Legal team fleeing. Judge rebuking him publicly. Own book destroying him. Queen's warning ignored. Potential perjury charges. This is systematic self-destruction with Harry as the architect. When he loses, financial ruin follows. Family reconciliation dead. Meghan stayed home watching Chelsea dominate headlines. The dignified ex versus the wife who monetized everything. My question is this lawsuit just Harry reliving the one that got away? Team Chelsea or Team Meghan? Bankruptcy or divorce? Drop your answers. This story is far from over. You know, the thing that keeps hitting me about this whole mess is the sheer audacity of it all. We're not just talking about a civil lawsuit anymore, right? The perjury angle, that's where this thing goes, from embarrassing public spectacle to potentially criminal. I mean, lying under oath isn't some slap on the wrist. It's jail time. And when you've got a published memoir, a book you toured the world for, swearing every word is gospel truth, directly contradicting your sworn testimony in court, come on. That's not a hazy memory, that's documented, provable falsehood. Legal analysts are already buzzing about whether prosecutors could even bring charges. It's Harry's own words in print versus his own words under oath. You can't get much more undeniable than that. And what about the public? Seriously, folks, how much longer can anyone buy this victim narrative? Harry's been painting himself as this poor, misunderstood royal, trapped by a system, silenced by the family. But then you see William quietly, professionally, effectively taking on the media and winning, then giving the money to Harry's own charity. That's not just a contradiction, it's a total demolition of Harry's entire argument. It exposes the never complain policy as exactly what it was, a choice, not an unbreakable chain. William chose dignity and action. Harry chose drama and victimhood. The contrast is so stark, it's almost painful to watch. The royal family, though, their silence, that's not just passive, it's strategic. They watched Andrew crash and burn, and they're not getting pulled into Harry's self-immolation. Charles isn't calling, William isn't reaching out, Harry's checking his phone, desperate for some acknowledgement, but he's getting nothing. That silence, that's their answer. He burned those bridges himself, with spare, with the Oprah interviews, with every single public attack. You don't get to trash your family on a global stage for years and then expect them to come running when you're in a legal bind. It just doesn't work like that. Those bridges aren't just burned, they're atomized. And what about Meghan back in California? She stayed home, right? But Chelsy Davy's name is plastered everywhere, dominating headlines. The dignified ex versus the wife who monetized everything. You've got to wonder what that's doing to their dynamic. Every article about Chelsy highlights her grace, her discretion, her quiet happiness. Everything that, let's be honest, Meghan isn't perceived to be. This whole lawsuit, it's not just about privacy or revenge for Harry. It feels like he's reliving the one that got away, dragging Chelsy back into the spotlight, inadvertently highlighting the choices he made and what he lost. The financial fallout, too, is just mind-boggling. Like $150 million gone in 4 years, and they're still flying on other people's jets, staying in other people's homes. That grifter label from Spotify executives, it's sticking. In Hollywood, that kind of reputation spreads like wildfire. No one wants to deal with a brand that brings controversy without delivering the goods. Netflix is questioning renewal. The Spare adaptation is stalled. Every project they touch just generates more drama than viewers. Entertainment executives are absolutely asking, is the Sussex brand even worth the trouble? The answer increasingly seems to be a resounding no. If he loses this case, and honestly, it's looking more and more likely, the consequences are catastrophic. Personally liable for £40 million. That's forced sale of the Montecito mansion, potential bankruptcy, career destroyed, credibility annihilated. Any hope of family reconciliation, completely dead. He's literally tracing his Uncle Andrew's footsteps with terrifying precision. Arrogance, entitlement, thinking he's above consequences, then catastrophic lawsuit, public humiliation, family exile, permanent disgrace. Both believed they were special, thought rules didn't apply. Both are discovering they're wrong in the most brutal, public way imaginable. It's a tragedy, but it's a self-inflicted one. The man we see now, haggard, balding, defeated. It's not just aging. It's the physical manifestation of systematically destroying everything good in your life for revenge. This isn't over, not by a long shot.